interculturally. What does it mean for you in your discipline or in your area of research? How would you define it? How do you want to start?
Right. Well, I know how Helene Saussure defines it, so I'd like to start with a quote, if that's okay. Helene Saussure is a sociologist, French, feminist, and I as an Australian, I came here with knowing that in Australia intercultural practices really are not done well at all. There is a major issue with Indigenous Australians. The issue isn't with them, it's with the white hegemonic post-colonialism. And I had to come to the UK to understand it and to see it differently, to sort of stand back and to stop othering and to actually see myself, to understand the multiple identities that I inhabit and embody in a way that I couldn't have and didn't when I was a fish swimming in the sea. So that's my first sort of strand, is looking at the reflexivity and positioning of oneself in relation to, as a global citizen. Helene Saussure says, being intercultural is being two. The nature of the being in intersubjective, intercorporeal, and in between, using the metaphor of self as apple and other as orange. That's the key thing. Self as apple and other as orange. Helene Saussure suggests evocatively that being between two is a moment. Being between two is a moment. And here's her key mantra: to live the orange. I interpret that often because I'm also a musician. I've had 3 careers in music as a performing artist, in education, primary and secondary, and now I don't know how it happened, but in academia, and working and researching multiple creativities. One of them is intercultural creativity, what happens in practice when two come together. And if all you need to do is see 2 musicians play from different cultures, they never play first. They eat and they drink and they talk and they get to know each other. And they learn about each other before the intersection occurs. So in terms of what is intercultural, what is interculturality, I'd like us to perform it, and this will only take another minute. And in performing interculturality, I'm going to throw this beautiful ball of wool, which is gorgeous. I bought it at the sheep shop. It's called the Sheep Shop in Cambridge. And if you catch it, fantastic. If you don't, just pick it up and throw it on to someone else and see what happens when one does connect with someone, whether that be playing an instrument, speaking and having an encounter with this beautiful, beautiful, and I'm going to throw them all, and I want you to throw them to each other as we speak, and then we'll cut them and leave it here as an installation of multiple meanings of interculturality by the end of the day. So whilst I'm speaking, if we can just have a go at this, what she also says, I'm almost done, is she asks, under what conditions, however, may I live the orange? And immediately draw attention to the political nature, huge word, of being two in intercultural moments, of being two. Now notice she doesn't say, and I'm making an intercultural encounter connection right now. There we go, well done. And essentially, you know, this is a meeting place, but what happens in that encounter, in the in-between, how does it actually manifest itself? And I wonder if you could be thinking about what that is. Hold the piece, take a little bit of a, you know, sort of make a long piece before you send it off to someone else, because you want to keep connected. Another key point, living the orange, but keeping connected. So you don't throw something or give something or have somebody take something, which is even worse, away from you. You keep connected in this relationship. That's why I'm getting a long string here, and I'm going to be throwing, there we go. Yes, excellent. It's a beautiful feeling. It really is lovely. I just feel connected to you, and I'm holding on to this. In fact, I'm going to just wrap it around me, because I do feel I want to stay connected, and we connect as two culturals coming together. She goes on to say, and this is another key word, ethical relation. Her work reminds us to live the orange, to live the orange. I think we're living the orange today. To live the orange is a political act, but she goes on to say that the question of possibility, performativity, power and privilege are everywhere, and that we can and need to think about intercultural pedagogy, which might become, if we begin to think, live, feel, breathe, and be the ethical and moral global citizen engaged in intercultural research. All encounters are intercultural. So, well done. It's such a glorious thing. I think I was a basketballer when I was 12, and it takes me back. But either way, we want everyone to have caught the wool, and I think we can do this quite seamlessly as a sort of as a practice that's going on, and this becomes the performance of interculturality. I've done this with my PhD students, all of whom have, well, many of them have intercultural themes, and that's okay, because there is an adaptation there. Not all connections work the first time, but make sure you keep connected to this wool and enjoy it.
Thank you. Very nice to get engaged, intellectually, physically, creatively, metaphorically as well.
Just kidding.
It's my turn, isn't it? Yeah, it's only my computer that's computing at the moment. But I'm very much engaged here as well. As I said, coming from a different branch of the humanities where it's really about textual study, my field of research is migration and migration literature, so you can already see how that might work, and that I'm studying cultural encounters between different ethnic groups, usually dominant, non-dominant, if those terms work. They're a bit simplified perhaps. And particularly in multilingual literature. So I was, as I said, very interested in the reading that we were all set to do. And for example, in Zu's chapter from her book, where she distinguished the various paradigmata that you can use, then there have been the first two empirical, and so we don't use those at all in my kind of work, but we do very much, I think, use the critical and the constructivist one, and certainly the critical one. So when I started my work on multilingual American literature, that was very much designed to make an intervention into American monolingualism, and the idea that the US is an Anglophone culture. It's not, and as you probably know, it's less and less so. So I really wanted to make a statement about that and kind of change the direction of the research with that work. On the terminology that I introduced already, so we tend not to use interculturality. I think we should. So that encounter in a migrant text between, let's say, an Italian immigrant around 1900 who writes his first novel in English, where you see the Italian kind of coming through the English. That is an intercultural encounter between an immigrant and a culture. So, but we tend at the moment to, or let me speak for myself. I tend to think of it as, oh, it's in ethnic studies, or it's in immigrant literature, or it's in, I'm an African Americanist as well, absurd though that is as a white person, but there is some virtue in outside scholarship. I'll say a bit more about that later maybe. There is insider knowledge, but it's also possible to have a particular kind of outsider knowledge that can be quite insightful sometimes, precisely because you have a bit of distance from that culture. So, and then I would use critical race theory or bodies of theory like that, or indeed succeed. So I think we have a lot of overlap in the areas of theory that we use. Let me see if that's for this question what I want to say. Yeah, different terminology. Well, another thinking point in the reading, I think it was in Adrian Holiday's chapter actually, was that term cultural difference. I think there's a tendency that humanities scholars have, myself included certainly, to use cultural difference and assume that we know what that is and not break it down and to attribute conflict, friction, whatever, to cultural difference. Or to be surprised when there are solidarities across cultural difference. So I found that really helpful to the way he was, again, very self-reflective about it and thought about breaking that notion of cultural difference down, that it's not a solid thing, but that it has dimensions and aspects and so on, and to be probably a lot more precise in how we articulate that, and not to assume that we know what it is or that it is there in any intercultural encounter. Yeah.
Yeah. I prepared to say something else, but actually, my colleagues have already said it better than I could, actually. I think there are a couple of things just to add to the conversation, or the reflections here. I do think that's right about the kind of presumptions about where difference starts. And I've always thought that Goetz is right when he says, difference doesn't start on a distant shore, it starts at the boundary of our touch. And I suppose the thing that I would just to say is there's a couple of things that might push the discussion in a different way, is the work that culture does in the discussion of interculturality. What's that idea of culture? And I think many, the spirit of the readings and of the reflections on that are evidently not arguing for an idea of culture that is somehow sealed or that the soundproofing holds within, if that makes sense. So culture is permeable, is constituted, is enacted, is moving, is living. But the question that I wanted to add, and interculturality is something that I remember thinking a lot about actually in the early days of the discussions of questions of youth and identity and migrancy and multiculture. That's not something I've thought as much about in recent times actually, and so it's a good reminder to do that. But the question that came to mind, thinking of that you posed to us, is okay, that commitment to dialogue and humility and sharing, and in some sense, a decommissioning of expert knowledge. It's something I feel really passionately and strongly about. But what does that commitment look like when you're in encounters and dialogues with people that you would think of as your aesthetic enemies, or political enemies, or ethical enemies? What does it look like in that space? And how does our kind of commitment to interculturality is that push that? And I've always thought that Primo Levi's reflection on the importance of, on the one hand, dialogue, at the same time holding on to the importance and value of critical judgment, feels like a right combination.
So I've got the challenge of trying to add something more. I have to say that I'm very much sharing the kinds of things that you all mentioned. And I suppose, Pam, I have some identity with your positionality. I grew up not having a culture. In fact, my culture was here in the UK. And among my peers, we all expected to do our big OE, our overseas experience, to come to the UK and see our culture, because that's what we were taught at school. We were taught the history, the literature of the UK and colonialism. And there happened to be Maoris. Okay, so now, of course, my children have learnt a post-colonial education where Maori is taught across the curriculum, and Maori are very much a part of the political and social, we are a nation together in theory. Okay, so there's been a lot of political struggle to achieve that, and Linda Tui-Wise-Smith's methodological decolonising. Decolonising indigenous. There's something indigenous in the title, I think. Indigenous methodologies, yeah. So, yes. So, very interesting in terms of what does it mean to do research with others in different communities. And I've brought my floral arrangement because I think it's quite interesting thinking about what culture is, and if Adrian were here, he'd talk very much about this idea of deconstructing culture and understanding the cultural flows and the counter-discourses and the counter-narratives. And here I have this very thorny, prickly, dominant thing in the middle. It's Brexitology, this framework, actually, this display here. So we know what this is here in the centre, this political force. But look at what's coming up all around it. You know, you've got this quite strong flourishing here and this beautiful sob coming up, trying to suggest a counterflow. And then around here, the periphery, we've got sprouts coming out, but also struggling as well, as some things don't survive. So it's interesting, isn't it, when you're looking at culture, you're looking at how people show who they are through how they engage with one another, through their encounters, through their art, through their expression of who they are. So for me, that's what interculturality is. It's about people coming together and showing who they are through their communication, dialogue, but also how they represent themselves and with others and in groups. So, in a sense, we've got small and large cultures too, going back to Adrian's work, where the small cultures are very much trying to coexist within the largest structure. So I think that's really interesting. And then someone said at the beginning, what research or what researcher is not intercultural or is not working interculturally? I think this is really interesting. So some of my work lately has been around this large project with Professor Alison Fitz up in Glasgow, looking at researching multilingually at the borders of language, the body, law and the state. So culture embodies all of those things. And if you think about, these us coming together, being together in society, it's about the language we speak, it's about how we present ourselves in dialogue with others and through our creative endeavours. It's about the counter forces, the dominant political forces that upset those flows, and then the embodiment of who we are through our language, through our identity. So that's me.
Thank you. It's lovely to see you.